Hey guys, welcome to the channel. Hoping everybody's having a great weekend. I made a video, last video I made was 4 reasons why the PlayStation 5 will absolutely not be launching in late 2018. And I thought this time around I'd make a video of 4 reasons why the PlayStation 5 would benefit more from launching in 2020 instead of 2019, which is still kind of plausible. Real quick, I want to say that, like a lot of you, when the PS4 first came out, first thing I thought it was great, but maybe a little underpowered. And I started thinking immediately of the PlayStation 5 and what we were going to eventually be able to do with that. So did some quick math and thought to myself, these consoles on average have been coming out every 6 years. They increased roughly about 10 times in power, which would make the PlayStation 5 about 18 teraflops, and they roughly have about 16 times the memory, which would give the PlayStation 5 about 128 gigabytes of RAM. Now, at the time, I had no idea that in the next 5 years, what we were going to see is the most antithetical thing of backwards in the advancement of Moore's Law in regards to the memory market. Right now you're paying probably about roughly twice as much what you were paying for, let's say, 8 gigabytes of RAM 5 years ago. So that's usually not the way Moore's Law works, and I think it's the first time in history that it's been like that, and a lot of it has to do with cameras, smartphones, and a whole lot of other things, not to mention mining. So that's one of the monkey wrenches that got thrown into that. As far as the 2019 date, another thing that affects it is the introduction of the mid-cycle refreshes. So the PlayStation 4 Pro basically is like a gap bridger between the PlayStation 5 and the PlayStation 4 as far as power is concerned. So there's a little bit of ambiguity there. Now, not so much with the PlayStation 4 as, let's say, something like the Xbox 2, because the Xbox One X is so much more powerful than just the regular Xbox One. But there is still a little bit of that stopgap. So in order to further distinguish, I think it's necessary to make sure the PlayStation 5 is as powerful as possible. But having said that, I want to start on the list, on the countdown of why 2020 is so much better for the PlayStation 5 than 2019. And reason number 4, I'm ranking these just like I did in the last list, from least important to most important. And reason number 4 on this list is actually very similar to reason number 1 on the previous list. And that being that right now is the time that Sony is really going to reap its rewards for the investment that it's made in all this hardware. When they sell a PlayStation 4, as far as the actual console, they really don't make that much money. So they're really going to make their money, A, on software sales, and B, on first-party software sales. And right now is the best time. They've got the best lineup here in the next 18 months, the most amount of high-quality AAA first-person exclusives. And these are exclusives that are really highly anticipated. So extending the life cycle from 2019 to 2020 just gives them that much more opportunity, especially as titles slip past their initial estimated release dates. It gives them an opportunity to capitalize even further, because two things are happening. Not only do they have the most amount of software coming out that's highly anticipated, but they have one of the largest user bases that they've ever had before. I can easily see how by the end of the year, the PS4 could be up to 90 million users, or 90 million PS4s out there in the wild, potentially bringing in a whole lot of software sales. So the longer they do that, just an extra year would give them that much more profitability. No doubt there's going to be a little bit of a sales dip, and there always is, and that's your indication right there that it's time to release that new console. So for that reason alone, 2020 is far better than 2019. Just makes a whole lot more sense, and it creates that much more revenue for them. Reason number 3 is also related to, it's actually related to how much demand there would be for the PlayStation 5. Giving people an extra year to want something more powerful is a good idea, but the main reason, number 3, is that you're going to have a larger install base of 4K televisions. And 4K televisions aren't just getting cheaper, they're also getting nicer, and they're also getting bigger, which, if you're going to increase the amount of detail, not just resolution, the lighting, all these things are going to benefit from things like better HDR, and in some cases maybe even Dolby Vision, the upgraded version of HDR. So that's a very good reason to go ahead and wait, because when you have, the more 4K televisions you have out there, the more demand there is going to be for content, and one of those contents is going to be console games. So they're just going to look better. It's going to create its own, it's kind of like ringing the dinner bell. It's like, hey, it's time for this thing. So when people get this PlayStation 5 in their homes and they're viewing it on these amazing 4K panels that are surely going to be out there by then that makes a more compelling case for people who want to purchase. So that's reason number 3. Reason number 2, which used to be my reason number 1, until I rethought about it, but it's a very good reason, and that is you give the hardware more time to get A, more powerful, and B, cheaper. There's already talk that Navi isn't actually planned as a high-end card, and I actually think that that's a good thing, because even if you're going to put it in a console, it doesn't mean it has to be weak, and it doesn't mean it has to be 14 teraflops. And even if it is, as long as you got a lot of memory with that, that's, you can still deal with that. With so many people out there just rattling their sabers of about 60 frames a second, you need to have as powerful a GPU out there. I personally probably couldn't care less. There have been some good arguments made for 60 frames a second. Racing cars, obviously, fighting games, flight simulators. I know when Ace Combat 7 comes out there, I would very much like it to be 60 frames a second. I would even be willing to sacrifice a little bit of visual fidelity. But why not have both? I think it was one of the personalities on The Know that mentioned that Spider-Man, even though and with Spider-Man I agree, you want as much visual fidelity as possible. But what if you could have Spider-Man at 60 frames a second? That'd be a wonderful thing as well. So if instead of having a 12 or 14 teraflop console, if you could have a 24 teraflop console, which the math alone tells us is very much possible on a 7 nanometer node, then why not? And then if you've got, let's say, a game like this, like Lost Legacy here, Uncharted Lost Legacy, and they just want to throw extra visuals at it, then that's even better, because there's going to be some developers out there that want to make their games look as much like movies as possible. And it'd be an amazing thing to live in a world where in the 9th gen you're playing games that have that level of visual fidelity. So for that alone, you need to, especially when you consider things like memory, that just the market just doesn't make any sense. You want the manufacturing processes to be mature. That way you're getting yields. And yields are everything, because yields determine how big you can make them, and yields also determine how much you can charge for them. So 2020 is a very, very good reason. Again, initially I thought that'd be my number 1 reason. Having said that, I think we beat that horse to death, and it's time to move on to the very number 1 reason why 2020 is a much better year than 2019 to release a PlayStation 5. And that is, and one of the things that got me thinking about this is the fact that, or the rumor, the report that there are a lot of PlayStation 5 dev kits out there, which I understand are probably no more than glorified PC chassis, or how you see those sometimes those test chassis. They're just out in the open, basically a conglomeration of PC specs, or just technology specs. This is what we've got. We want you to build a game or start building a game around this type of spec. So that got me thinking. The more complex your game is, especially if you want to differentiate your software in the 9th gen or for the PlayStation 5, you want to make your PlayStation 5 games stand out. You have to have the games out there, which is going to take time, and they have to be different, and they have to be good. And giving developers an extra year, so it's perfectly fine, because the pre-production probably has already, a lot of these launch titles have probably been in pre-production for anywhere from a year to 2 years. So for there to be technology platforms out there or development kits out there that they can kind of shoot towards a technology target is not a bad thing at all. And giving them that extra year just means that when the PlayStation 5 launches, especially if it's at a $500 price point, which I very much rather have, I don't think there's any PlayStation 4 Pro owner out there that, if given the ability to hand in an extra $100 and turn in their PlayStation 4 Pro, if they could get a PlayStation 4 Pro back that has the same specs as the Xbox One X, I don't think there's a single PlayStation 4 Pro owner right now that wouldn't take it, especially if they own a 4K television. I love my PlayStation Pro. I love all the games coming out, but when it comes to third party, I'm going with the Xbox One X. I'm very much looking forward to Tomb Raider, Shadow of the Tomb Raider. I'm very much looking forward to it here in a couple of weeks when they do the official reveal. I'm looking forward to E3, and I'm looking forward to playing this game here coming September. Also, Red Dead Redemption, another game that I know is coming out this year that I will be buying for the Xbox One X. Looking down the horizon to games that I know are coming out, if they're not going to be next-gen titles, one of which I know most probably will be, and that's Avatar, because it's stated that by James Cameron that the game isn't coming out any sooner than the movies, and the movies are going to start in 2020. And then, of course, there's Cyberpunk 2077. Unless it's PlayStation 5 launch title, I'm probably getting it for the Xbox One X. So there you have it, folks. These are my 4 reasons why, top 4 reasons why the PlayStation 5 would be much better off coming out in 2020 than in 2019. Now, on a side note here, as a bonus, there's this also this other reason, and it's the fact that the PlayStation brand will have its 25th anniversary since the North American launch in 2020. So 2020 marks the 25th year of the PlayStation brand in North America. So that's just kind of a bonus reason for you guys. Anyways, that's it for today, guys. So please rate, comment, and subscribe. If you like the video, give it a like. If there's something that you didn't like, you might give it a dislike, or you might tell me on the comments. Let me know. What would you like to see? What are some of the things that, or some of the reasons why you think the PlayStation 5 needs to come out in 2020, or why it should come out in 2019? Anyways, you guys have a great day, and we'll be talking to you later.